The beginning of my story starts in Detroit, Michigan. Yes, good old Detroit, Michigan. In the early 1980s is when I fell in love with video games. The first system I ever had was an Atari 2600. That point I knew I was a gamer. Now look at this black ass little boy, 5-year-old Dirk Griggity. Who would have known I would become a hardcore gamer? I know what you young kids are probably thinking. Boy, do those games look like shit. Yes, they do look like shit, but in 1981, 1982, these games looked amazing to me. Especially for a 5-6-year-old kid. I was addicted to gaming. I couldn't get enough of playing these games. Even though Pac-Man wasn't as good as its arcade counterpart, I still loved it. I loved every minute of these games. But little did I know, in a few years down the line, it was going to get even better. The Nintendo Entertainment System and the Sega Master System came out. Oh my God, I was doing a console war even back then. In 1985, the NES released in North America. And let me tell you guys something. I wasn't fortunate enough to get one at launch, but my friends down the street did get one at launch. And I couldn't believe the graphics on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Absolutely amazing. We played Mario, Zelda, Double Dribble, Mike Tyson Punch-Out. The system was incredible. I wasn't able to get one at launch, but the following year, in 1986, my dad asked me, "What do you want for your birthday?" And I said, a Sega. Yes, I told my dad to get me a Sega Master System. I remember my friend saying to me, "Dirk, why aren't you getting a Nintendo like the rest of us?" I said, "Because you guys have a Nintendo, I can play that whenever I want. But nobody around here has a Sega Master System." And trust me, y'all, I don't regret that decision for a second. Even though Nintendo had the better first-party games, Sega Master System was an incredible system. But little did I know that this was just the beginning of the console war, Sega versus Nintendo. At this point for me, I was more serious than ever about gaming, and this console war thing was starting to heat up. When the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis released, I was a little bit older. I was in my early teenage years. This is also around the time that I got into other things like sports, in particular basketball, but I still made time for gaming. Just like any other teenage boy at that age, I had to make time for the ladies, especially after you get your first piece. I had my girl, I had basketball, I had school, and most of all, I had gaming. Even though I was busy all through high school with other things, at the end of the day, I was still a hardcore gamer. I was a big time Sega Genesis guy all throughout high school. I actually didn't get a Super Nintendo until after I graduated high school. But Sega Genesis was the system for me, even though I will admit that Super Nintendo was more powerful and it had better first-party games. I was still a Sega Genesis guy. Kind of similar to how I feel about Xbox and PlayStation now, but we'll get to that later on in the video. But yeah, Genesis was life throughout high school. Gaming was life. And even though I was about to graduate from high school, for some reason, my love for gaming still didn't change. The year is 1995. I'm out of high school. I'm going to a local college and I'm working at Best Buy, and the PlayStation 1 drops. Even though I was a big time Sega guy, it was something about that Sega Saturn that I just didn't like. And when they stealth launched the Sega Saturn in May of 1995, nobody was ready for that, including myself. So I just waited until the fall of 1995 and picked up that PlayStation 1. I was working at Best Buy at the time and I said, man, this PlayStation 1 is calling my name. So there it was, I picked it up, and let me tell you guys, to this day, the PS1 might still be my favorite system of all time. From Tekken to Metal Gear Solid to all those great SmackDown games, to Final Fantasy VII, the PlayStation 1 was absolutely amazing. And this was a very interesting time in my life, because even though I was very young, in my early 20s, I decided to get married, and I had a kid. And I wasn't ready for that, but I did those things. And I was during the PS1 era. This is why the PS1 is one of my most favorite consoles ever, because during that era, I actually had my first kid, my firstborn. Here it is, 20 years later. I'm still a hardcore gamer, and of course, she's still my firstborn. In 1995, Sega pissed me off, and I said I would never buy another Sega system. That was until the Sega Dreamcast. The Sega Dreamcast was an amazing system. They had great games like Sonic's Adventure, Jet Grind Radio, Crazy Taxi. Hell, they even had this game called Shenmue. I know most people have heard of Shenmue, but anyway. They even had the NBA 2K series, NFL 2K, was all exclusive to the Sega Dreamcast. The Sega Dreamcast was really doing well. It was doing good for itself. But it's something that was about to come out that was going to slow down all the momentum that the Sega Dreamcast had. It was nothing Sega was doing wrong. It was just something was about to come out. The PlayStation 2. The highest selling console of all time, absolutely killed off the Dreamcast. At the time, I was enjoying my Sega Dreamcast, but when the PlayStation 2 released, it was almost like immediately that it killed off the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast only lasted about 2.5 years before the PS2 took it out. So of course I had to let the Dreamcast go, and I picked up a PlayStation 2. And let me tell you guys, I was not disappointed. The first two games I remember getting was Max Payne and Grand Theft Auto 3. Two phenomenal games. And on top of that, it was a DVD player. And at the time, DVD was a brand new technology that people was very interested in. And the PS2 was selling like hotcakes. And if you guys remember earlier in this video, I said the PlayStation 1 was a fun time in my life. I was a newlywed. I just had a kid. So that was a great time during my life. But the PS2 was almost the opposite. I was going through a divorce. I was living in my best friend's basement with nothing down there but my PS2 and my TV. And I gotta be honest, y'all, my PS2 got me through those rough times. Had some great games to play, had some great movies to watch. Love the PS2. Here we are. The original Xbox. Let me explain to you guys how I became an Xbox guy. When the original Xbox released, I had zero interest. I was a PS2 guy. It wasn't until a close friend of mine said, "Hey Dirk, man, this Xbox is actually pretty good. You should come check it out." And I'm like, I'm not really interested in the Xbox, man. I'm a PlayStation guy. He said, "No, man, just come over to the crib and check it out. This game Halo was pretty good." I said, "Yeah, I heard about this Halo game, but okay, I'll check it out." So eventually, I went to his house and we played Halo. And let me tell you something. It was me, him, and a couple of his nephews or cousins or something, and we played Halo. 4-player split screen. And I don't remember having that much fun in a long time. We had an absolute blast, and I said, damn, maybe this Xbox is on to something. And I remember I didn't have that much money, so I had to wait a little bit longer, but maybe within the next 6 months, I was able to get me an original Xbox. And the rest, ladies and gentlemen, is history. By the time the Xbox 360 and the PS3 came out, I was a die-hard Xbox guy. With the original Xbox, I just fell in love with the Xbox brand. I loved everything about Xbox. from the games to the controller to Xbox Live. I mean, Xbox Live was just absolutely amazing to me. I could not believe I can play the game with someone that wasn't sitting next to me, that was in the comfort of their own home. Hell, somebody that was in another country. So Microsoft and Xbox really blew me away with this technology. And by the time the Xbox 360 came out, I was an Xbox dude to the core, to the absolute core. And another great thing during this era, my life was changing. I got remarried. I had another kid. Everything was going great for me. And at that moment, Xbox was my number one console. I didn't hate the PlayStation. I didn't hate Nintendo. But I just became an Xbox guy. With the PS3, I was very interested at first, until Sony announced the price of the console. I couldn't believe the price of that console. And at the time, I didn't make that much money. I made enough money for Xbox 360, but to purchase a $600 PS3, I couldn't get it. And I was just so happy with the Xbox 360, I said, there's no need for me to even get a PS3. So I didn't get a PlayStation 3 until 2010. By that time, PlayStation was really starting to drop some good games. They dropped Heavy Rain, God of War 3, which is one of my favorite games of all time. That's when I started to enjoy the PlayStation 3, Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3. Then eventually in 2013, they dropped The Last of Us. So yeah, these were some great times for me. Xbox 360 and the PS3 was damn some great times. Here we are. We made it to the Xbox One and the PS4 era. Shit. Let's talk about this. The year is 2013. Everything is going good with Mr. Dirk Griggity. Still married to my wife. Had another kid in 2009. So everything is going great for me. But it's around this time that these new consoles are coming out. The PS4 and the Xbox One. Now, me being a big time Xbox 360 guy, of course I'm excited about the new Xbox One. Well, when Microsoft revealed this console, it didn't go too well. A lot of people didn't like their policies. A lot of people didn't like how they talked about TV more than games. Therefore, a lot of people said, I'm going to the PlayStation. And it didn't help when the PlayStation was more powerful and also cheaper. So Xbox fans that I know personally, a lot of Xbox fans jumped ship to the PlayStation, while good old Dirk Griggity stayed here and still represent the Xbox. There was a lot of guys like me at the beginning of this generation, but it seems like now in 2019, a lot of those guys have fallen off. And to be honest, the PlayStation has dominated this generation, and the PlayStation is a better console this generation. But at the end of the day, as I've said in so many other videos before this, I am an Xbox guy. I have explained my life. I have gotten a little personal, and I hope you guys appreciate it. I know some people don't give a shit, but I just want to let you guys know, a guy in my age, a guy that's a hardcore gamer, what I've been through my life. As gaming goes, there's nothing like it. Even though I'm 42 now, I can guarantee, God willing, if I'm 62, I will still be gaming. I will have grandkids by then. You better believe it. And for you guys that's in your early 20s or teenagers now, trust me, you will be gaming for a long time.